Live from Alabama, we welcome race fans, one and all, back to Greenflight TV, where tonight we get set to go racing once again for the High Tide Racing League MF Racing Designs Cup Series. Welcome one and all to Talladega Superspeedway and to the Mission 22-250. My name is Ola Rampel alongside Josh Baird. We are bringing you all of racing action here from start to finish on this very beautiful Monday afternoon. Josh, it is Talladega, the biggest, the baddest track on the NASCAR calendar ever since its opening in 1969. Bound to be a fun one then this afternoon if Daytona was anything to go by.
Yeah, Nolan, I agree. I think Talladega is going to be a very fun track for these guys. They're going to be able to hit really crazy speeds in these Gen 4 cars. And I think that we're in for a wild ride if it's anything like the Daytona race we had earlier on in the season. And I think the other thing that's notable too is we have hardly any repeat winners so far this season. So I think that once again we may see a new winner here at Talladega.
You talk about there not being a lot of repeat winners so far in 2022. Take a look at some of the stats entering the race. Only 3 drivers have got to repeat wins. Benjamin Lacey, Nick Dickerson, and Aaron Smith. They all have 2 wins to their name this afternoon. And of course, the point standings entering tonight's race as well. It is looking to be an extremely intense dogfight up at the head of this field, right? There's a lot to play for so many of these drivers. And I have got to imagine that for a lot of these folks, they have got to be thinking big picture now for the championship. Only 20 points separate Benjamin Lacey from Scott Shire at the top of the board, with drivers like Ty Marasco not far behind either.
It's going to be an awesome race to the finish, seeing all these guys performing so well that got them in this position to keep this point race tight. And with Talladega tonight, that's going to be no different, to give some of these guys opportunities that may have struggled a little earlier on this season to catch back up. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what's in store for us as it comes to the championship as well, with how tight the racing's going to be tonight.
I mean, kind of talk us through some of these main points, right? I mean, it's extremely difficult because you have to remember whenever you're getting into some big-time races like this, I think for a lot of these drivers, you have to start to consider how this is going to pan into the bigger championship. Daytona's Daytona, right? You are just going for it all out as fast as you can. That's not the case here this afternoon when you've got yourself with so many drivers struggling to get those final points. There's not a lot of races left before the cutoff race for the playoffs either. When we enter this race, race number 12? That's only now 3 weeks away that we're going to be seeing the top 12 reset.
I agree, and I think tonight is going to be the night we're going to probably see a lot of aggressiveness, maybe some more elbows out than we're used to seeing from this group, just because this is anybody's race to win at a track like Talladega. So we're going to see a lot of that, I think, tonight, and we're going to see a lot of people trying to team up with people that they've got along with so far this season to try and get themselves to the front of the pack.
Qualifying, for the most part, is all wrapped on up. Now, we've got 40 seconds left here in qualifying. Right now, we have got 14 that have put down times. There's anticipated, though, to be an even 20 to start racing action here this afternoon. Race 1 at Daytona had 23 start the race. Only 14 finished on the lead lap. There were 12 cautions, though, in the Daytona race. It was a very caution-filled race. Had a pretty good green flag run early on, but it did not take long for the aggression to really kick up. Do you reckon it'll be a repeat here this afternoon?
That's a great question. I think the thing that I'm going to be asking myself is one, how aggressive are these guys going to be, because they know that they have a good shot at getting some good points out of here tonight. But B, the second thing is there really hasn't been a ton of cautions outside of the Daytona race. So these guys have the opportunity to keep it clean if they're willing to be disciplined and make the right moves at the right time and not try and push the envelope too far and end up in the wall.
Qualifying is complete. Let's take a rundown of what your starting grid is going to look like as we get set to duke it out for 250 miles, 95 laps around the Talladega Superspeedway. Started on the pole, you have got Aaron Smith alongside Taylor Butch Benjamin on the front row. Dalton Kilgore starts third with David Leakey for Zero Foxtrot Motorsports, making his first HTRL race start this afternoon in fourth. Tom Marasco is fifth, Brian Dees is sixth, Benjamin Lacey seventh, Justin Ping is eighth. Jason Greenwell and Tony Hilbrandt ran up the top half of the grid.
11th is Kevin Foster. 12th, Michael Thorpe Jr. with Chris Berg in 13th. Michael Ashmore in 14th, with Scott Shire in 15th, Connor Gibson 16th, Stephen Ulrich in 17th, and Paul Zathmary in 18th.
So for the most part, drivers getting themselves lined on up and ready to go. One driver that I'm keeping tabs on this afternoon to see if he'll be able to make any kind of noise here this afternoon is going to be Chris Berg, starting down in that 13th place right now on the racetrack. Only one start so far this season. It was at the Auto Club Speedway, the Memorial Race. Started 20th. He finished in the top 5, though, but is still yet to score a podium. He's making his second start in HTRL competition this afternoon.
Yeah, Chris Berg starting 20th, finishing 5th. That's a pretty good debut for this car and that track. So we'll have to see if he has the ability to sneak his way up to the front once again like he did earlier in the season, and hopefully have a good result for himself tonight.
Aaron Smith, of course, a driver that has been making more and more frequent starts here in the series. He only made a handful last season, but for Aaron Smith, he has really started to come out to party a little bit more here. He's up to 4 starts this season. He is now finished. He's now going to be running up in that 5th race here this afternoon. So far, 2 wins on the season. He's one of those 2 drivers, one of 3 drivers that has multiple wins this season. And he has not finished outside of the podium all season long that he's been running. His races consist of a 3rd place at Texas, 2 wins at Sonoma and Martinsville, and then, of course, a runner-up spot at Pocono. Now, that said, Talladega is a whole different ball game, and it is a real gambler's track. If there's ever a race where he would not be finishing on the podium, I reckon it might be this one.
I agree with that 100%. That yellow submarine, I'm a little disappointed we haven't seen it so much more this season, because I really think he would be giving Benjamin Lacey a run for his money at the top of the championship points right now if he were able to stick around for all the races. But as a part-time driver, you don't always have that luxury. But I think tonight could be the night that somebody finally can surpass him for one of the spots on the podium.
A lot of racing action about to kick off in full force for the Talladega Superspeedway. The pace car going to make that sharp left-hand turn down to the pit road, but it is still a very long wait all the way around through the tri-oval before you really hit that restart zone. There you see the pace car ducking off. We're happy as always that you joined us here on this Monday night, getting set to kick off the month of June with the High Tide Racing League MF Racing Designs Cup Series. Aaron Smith going to lead the way into the Geico restart zone. And it's time for the biggest, baddest track in all of NASCAR to go, go, go! Aaron Smith going to be backing out of the field early on. He drops back, looking to save a little bit more fuel. Currently 3 wide towards the back of the field. Meanwhile, though, for Brian Dees, he is already looking to go triple file up front. Looking to go for the lead. Taylor Butch-Benjamin led lap number 1.
It looks like Tony Hillbrands was not content being where he was on the pack as he tries to take it 3 wide coming out of turn number 2. He's one of those guys that I expect to see tonight looking to really get a good points haul out of this. So he's going to be checkers or records, I think, for him tonight to try and get to the front of that pack and get himself some good championship points, as he is still 3 wide up in the 3rd row there as we are coming out of turn number 4.
A very strong drive so far for Butcher Benjamin. He is looking to lead the way for lap number 2 here this afternoon as he works his way back to the front straightaway. Dustin Ping currently fights him off around the outside line and looking to be a very clean drive overall. Taylor Butcher Benjamin, I think, will lead lap number 2. While you've got Brian Dees still fighting him off around the outside. We're going to double it out. The field taking some liberties early on.
Dustin Ping, another guy I think that is going to have a little bit more under his belt tonight. He ended up just one step outside of the podium after an amazing race last week. So I think here he's going to really try and push to improve his position tonight. I think he's very hungry for a podium.
So the number 10 continuing to lead the way up on top. Double file all the way back through this field. No surprises here. Not a lot of drivers looking for some aggressive moves early on. One driver tagging on towards the rear end and at risk of losing the draft is Steve Ulrich. Currently sits half a second behind Michael Ashmore. And is trying to see if he can get himself up and rolling here with a little bit of extra momentum to tag on to the tail end of the field.
It's a very dangerous game to be sitting that far back from the pack because you just become a boat anchor at a certain point if you lose the draft. So he really needs to get tucked back in there. I can imagine that he's still just close enough that if he rides that lower line, he'll be fine. But once again, we're 3 wide going through the turn right now. We got Thorpe in the middle with Ping to the outside. We got Dees on the second row right ahead with Thorpe right behind him. It looks like Dees has a run going out of the turn down the front stretch with Hilbrands behind him.
Did not take long for this pack to get itself triple file, multiple rows deep. And this is the kind of Gen 4 racing that was so prominent in early 2000s NASCAR before the car of tomorrow, of course, came into play big time, and tandem drafting began to take a little bit more hold into the 2010s. Right now, 3 drivers all leading different lines. Benjamin down low, Dees in the middle. Dustin Ping leads the way up on top. Looking like Brian Dees, though, Michael Thorpe Jr., they're going to look to move to the front as the other 2 lanes get a little bit disconjointed coming down the back straightaway. Carter Gibson's into the outside wall.
It's going to be tough. You really have to keep your pack tight, and as soon as you lose that, you're going to lose the draft, and then those lines below you are going to really take off on you. So you have to have it nice and tight if you want to win that battle in the draft packs. And another thing is, too, that I was going to mention was that you got guys that are going to go ahead and try and make those risks on that third line early on. And obviously it didn't pay out for those guys.
Speeds hit in excess of 210 miles an hour down the straights here. It is absurdly quick, the speeds that you can really hit at tracks like this. So far, the top speed on the afternoon is 207. That was hit by Paul Sapmary down to that 5th position with a huge drive from the field. Paul Sapmary was not looking to hang around to the back for long, and in just 7 laps, he is already up to that number 6 spot. So Paul Sapmary, not a driver that's going to be content to sit behind the wings for long.
Great job by him picking a great strategy to get him right to the front of the field. I believe at Daytona was also another opportunity that he took advantage of that to get himself into the front of the field. I don't think it ended quite the way he had expected it to there, but now that he's got a couple more races under his belt, I think he feels a little more comfortable sitting up here, and we could be seeing him sitting on a podium at the end of this race.
So far, Dees and Benjamin have been the pair that have been looking to lead the way up front. Brian Dees back at Daytona led the most laps out of anybody in that race. He led 50 out of what ended up being 111 laps on the afternoon. So less than half the total race, but that was, of course, because of numerous overtime attempts as well. And it looks like Brian Dees is looking to do that as well here this afternoon, as he has been battling it out with Benjamin, with right now Thorpe and David Leakey being the 2 main pushers that have really been trying to see if they can push those cars in the front.
Great job by these guys to keep these lines nice and strong side by side with each other. You notice that they're giving each other a little more space at a place like Talladega. It is not as bumpy, so you could expect these guys to get a little more tight as the race goes on, but I think early on in this race they're just trying to keep it clean, so they're trying to keep it out of the way. And I'd like to also mention too, with this new points penalty system, these guys might be playing a little more conservatively than they would have at Daytona.
Let's talk about that new points penalty system. Well, not points penalty, but the new penalty system that was entering racing action here this afternoon. The 3-strike system has now been officially put into place. So the caution's been deemed to be caused by you. Your first at fault going to be an EOL. The second, a drive-through on the green. And the third, well, you're not going to be on the racetrack to make a 4th. Let's just put it that way. So that's their new 3-strike system that they've got. That is in effect starting from this week onward. And there's been a few other changes the other big change right now, race control now has full autonomy over when a caution is thrown. Previously, it used to be only iRacing judged. Then race control was given partial autonomy in the event that they had to, but iRacing for some reason wasn't throwing it. Now it is fully up to them. iRacing has no say anymore.
I think that's a great job by the admins to try and keep the competition well. I think when you get the fast repair involved, it can cause people to get a little more aggressive because they don't think, they think, oh, I got this card in my back pocket in case anything goes bad. But the problem is then you have more incidents. So now with this new penalty system, I really think it's going to keep these guys in check to think twice, because they do not want to have to end up serving a penalty at the end of the day.
Still 2 lanes going all the way back until about 10th, and then it's single file all the way back. But so far, all 20 that started this race are still tucked up in this line as well. A few drivers behind are starting to slip a bit further back, but they're doing a good job on maintaining that gap. So they're staying far enough back that they are able to check up if there's a wreck, but not so far back that they lose the draft altogether. How about the 66 there? Chris Berg looking to make a move around the outside. He's taking Dustin Pink with him.
Yeah, it looks like Berg is ready to go towards the front here, but the problem is he's already lost Gibson, which means that draft pack is going to be tough for him to get around. I know Ping's on the outside too. He seemed to have dropped a couple spots since this race has started. So Dustin Ping is, actually right now he's just two positions now ahead of where he was when he started. So I know I saw him a little further ahead earlier on the race, so I think he wants to be back up there again.
These guys are moving on the outside. They pushed all the way up from about 9th up to now 6th for the top shelf. So they are looking to really make some moves. Chris Berg now all the way up, fully even with 4th place runner Michael Thorpe Jr. And now 3 wide for 2nd. Brian Dees in a pack of his own all up there at the front. Carter Gibson goes up to help the top shelf. That inside lane losing a lot of momentum here. Right now it is Brian Dees that leads the way for the middle, but it looks like it might not stay that way for long.
Yeah, that bottom line getting a little discombobulated. They've already stretched out to nearly single file all the way back, and so there's not very many guys left in this multi-groove pack up here. Looks like Thorpe's going to go down to the inside and leave Brian Dees hanging in that middle row. Oh, Dees managed to dip down right in front of Thorpe, so he had the opportunity to secure his position out in front, and it looks like he's going to begin to take the commanding lead.
Dustin Ping runs in that 4th spot, trying to see if he can push Chris Berg to the front. Right now he is battling with both Thorpe and Dees. Still an ever-prominent duo, just a little ways behind as you take a look down to that inside line, and it is quite door to door, but you see how much room these 2 lines give each other. There's no side traffic going on right now in this pack, and that is also part of why these 2 lines have been able to make some good moves. How about Thorpe? He's going to try to go 3 wide up the middle for the lead.
Thorpe, another one of those guys that always seems to want to put an extra foot forward to try and get himself into the position to win the race. So he's out there making moves once again, and he's got a couple guys behind him to give them that ability to get out to the front. We'll have to see if it pays off here by making that move into the middle lane.
And you see your entire pack of 20 thundering down the front straightaway. We are already over 10% of the way through this race. It did not take long for racing action to really kick off in full force this afternoon. 2, 3 wide has always been the order. And once again, proving why the Gen 4s are superior in almost every way to the Gen 7 stock cars, because of how great of racing they can put on wherever they go. You'd be struggling to go even double file in Gen 7 stock cars right now to track like this. These guys going 3 wide, several deep, almost effortlessly. Dustin Ping looking like he's starting to slip back. Taylor Butch-Benjamin, Brian Dees, and now Thorpe in the 3 lanes.
Yeah, Connor Gibson nearly hitting the wall once again. I don't think that top line really works out very well for him, but Thorpe deciding that the outside lane may have been the faster way up to the front, but it looks like he's beginning to lose some positions out there on the track. So we'll have to see if he can recover with being up there on that 3rd line, maybe give him just enough momentum he can get back down to that 2nd line, because that's where he really needs to be at the end. But that 2nd and 3rd line really starting to drop like a rock. We'll have to see if anybody from that lower line can pop up and try and use that advantage to get themselves towards the front of the field.
Oh, a lot of movement going on around there, and that is going to abandon Michael Thorpe Jr., the Chicago native, being left out to dry. Chris Berger to show some mercy, and less than 34 car in between himself and David Leakey just up the road. Meanwhile, Brian Dees and Dalton Kilbrough still looking to go nose to tail as they thunder down the front straightaway. Right now, Team MFRD controlling the pack. You got 3 teammates running 1, 2, and 3 on a podium lockout.
Team MFRD seems to be the team that tends to work really well when they get together, so not too surprised to see them in 1, 2, 3 right now. We'll have to see if the number 10 car has anything. Maybe he'll use this opportunity to dip out to that outside line, get that second line forming once again, or if he'll just be content with turning laps in 4th place for right now.
Taylor Butcher-Benjamin, another driver that still runs in 4th, and there's been a lot of discombobulation going on towards the tail end. You check back in on drivers like Tony Hilbrandt, really starting to lose touch of the leading group, but it doesn't help that they're now going side by side with Connor Gibson. Now, the draft is very, very powerful in these Gen 4 cars, and you can make up a lot of speed from the back, but you've got to rely that the front pack checks up a little bit to make it easier to facilitate that. And now they're starting to reel him in. I think Connor Gibson caught a huge break there when Jason Greenwald cut back to the inside line in front of him.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that those guys need to sit line astern for a little bit to keep it nice and close, because the tighter you can keep that line, the better chance you have of catching that lead pack. They definitely don't want to lose the lead pack, because that will nearly be the end of their race. So these guys need to tuck right in and pick a line and stick to it, get nice and tight, and they'll be right back up to the front of that pack.
Looking back at races like Daytona, we were not seeing green flag pit stops really being feasible until a good ways up to the quarter distance marker. We never even got green flag pit stops throughout that entire race. It became very stop-start. The longest green flag run was until lap 23. Then the first yellow flag came out. And that was starting to get to that point where we were expecting to see some drivers coming down for fuel. Looking like it might be the same. I'm anticipating these guys being in by lap 30.
We'll have to see what lap these guys get in here, and definitely strategy is going to play a huge factor if we can get some green flag stops, because you don't want to be dipping down there by yourself, so you got to try and follow the leader if you can. But the outside row will definitely not be able to cross traffic to get themselves into the pit, so you'll want to set yourself up by being in that lower line early on in the pit window, so that way you can make sure you can get down there on time and not worry about running out of fuel.
If they can stretch it to lap 30, and the estimated fuel window is around laps 29 to 31, that would make this race about a 2-stop race. You pit once around 30, once around 60, and if you can save enough throughout both of those stints, you can then stretch it to make it to lap 95 without having to come down a 3rd time for a splash and go pit stop. But that again is reliant on the fact that this race A goes green, and B, that you're able to save a good bit of fuel under those green flag runs. And I think that's why we haven't seen too many super aggressive moves. Just a lot of people running behind, taking this time to save that gas in preparation for later.
As you say, they're not doing super aggressive moves. We go 3 wide again up on the top shelf, so it looks like we got a couple guys up there that are not content with where they were sitting at, and they decided to try and create that 3rd line. Doesn't seem to pay off for them as they... Oh, nope, never mind. It looks like they're getting ready to go 3 wide once again. Going down the backstretch. The middle row also lost their draft pack, so it might be that group of 4 cars up there might be losing some positions here in a minute, as that bottom line's got a nice tight little group going.
Right now, the hope of Team MFRD is that they could have controlled the race, but if they really wanted to control it, they would be putting cars on all 3 lanes. Right now, they're all stacked up down low. That's great for fuel saving, but it does also mean you're vulnerable to attack from the outside line if you can get a couple of cars hooked up out there. And it looks like Paul Satmary and David Leakey are 2 of those drivers that are very much hooked up, but they're going to be looking to drive around that outside line and make a big run around the top shelf.
Yeah, great job by those guys holding that outside line there. 3 cars to about 10, on the bottom line, and they're able to hold their own. The only thing that they can do at this point to help improve their situation is a little bit of side drafting, but I don't think we're going to see that for a little while longer, just because of how these guys want to try and make it to the end and not wreck themselves out. So right now, I think we're going to just see some more line astern and just settling in and ticking off those laps to try and get us closer to the finish.
David Leakey right now running in a career-high 4th, running around that outside line with Paul Sattenberry. Leakey was a full-time competitor in Season 1, but this is his first start in the 2024 campaign. That 84 machine had a best finish of 7 in the Gen 7 cars, and he achieved that finish 3 times at Coda, Iowa, and Charlotte last season. So he is really looking to come out here with a bang and show that in these Gen 4 cars, whoa, look out, Satmer going around. That's going to be a big crash up and into the outside wall. Around goes Benjamin, around goes Moore at the tail end. We've got multiple cars around, and I believe that was the 3 of Massajoe that turned around to the back, and the field is unbelievably lucky that that was not worse.
Yeah, this is the exact same thing we saw at Daytona as well, with these pointed noses and the high back ends of these cars that can cause incidents in the turns. If you go try to bump draft too hard in those turns, it just gets underneath that car, lifts the rear tires up, and as soon as they catch grip again, they go flying. So once again, Paul Zatmary also having another bad day in repeat to kind of what happened to him at Daytona with having incidents as well.
I mean, I would argue bump drafting at all in the corners on these cars is a questionable decision because of how much the back end just scoops it up. And it looks like because of when that caution was thrown out, Paul Satmer going to get a few spots back here in this one. Going to be overtaking Dustin Pink and might even get back to where he was before that yellow flag came out. But let's take a rundown real quick here of what happened to bring out yellow flag number 1. You're taking a look at Paul Satmer here. He's about to make that pass on Brian Dees for the race lead. He is being pushed by David Leakey. We were just talking about trying to make a good impression this afternoon, pushing all the way down into turn 3, and it's all going to go wrong right after that.
Yeah, you can't be pushing your nose under that tail there in the corner. It just doesn't work with these cars. So unfortunately for Paul, and it looked like a little further back, somebody else may have checked up and also gotten their rear end lifted off the ground. We'll have to see in the replay if that's the case.
That was Taylor Butcher Benjamin, I believe, that was stacking up with Mike Massingill just behind. Right now, all cars in the pit road critically still have everybody on the lead lap, so this should be a relatively quick caution flight that we're under here. Aaron Smith currently parking in his box, looking like it's going to be 4 tires and fuel for everyone. Smith has some troubles getting into his box. He's going to lose a lot of spots here. Ty Marasco, first in, first out. He leads the way off pit road. Thorpe second. And David Leakey, the cause of the yellow, is in third. But because it was the cause, he's going to be sent to the tail. Chris Berg, your new third-place runner.
From a racing engineer perspective, I wonder what I would do in this situation. If your guy just has aero damage, would you take the fast repair to repair the aero damage, or would you just wait to see if there might be another incident that they can use that later on when there's actual physical damage to the steering or the engine? So I'm curious to see. I'm pretty sure I saw Paul went ahead and took the fast repair this cycle. So we'll have to see who made all those choices that were involved in this incident.
Take a look further back on what happened to Paul Satmary and Moore in the mad dash down to turn number 3. That's a hard lick to the outside wall, and then further behind, it was Taylor Butcher Benjamin. We'll get a better look at that one here for you guys coming on down. But Paul Satmary started off with the melee up in the front with the 84. Just gets hooked, turned around hard to the outside wall, and then behind, it was Taylor Butcher Benjamin that got slammed into by Mike Massingill, who had nowhere to go. Yeah, that's just wrong place, wrong time for the 3. Nothing he could do, but again, very, very fortunate. That could have been a monster that would have taken out over half the field. So a lot of these guys did a phenomenal job to get around that.
Great job by these guys to avoid that wreck and save themselves for later on the race. It can be tough here at Talladega. Any of these super speedway tracks, you're hitting speeds of 210 miles per hour, and to be able to avoid something like that is pretty high skill. So, congrats to those guys that were able to survive that incident.
Pace car lights go out with 1 lap left to go before we go back to green flag racing. Take another look from the air this time. This is the full look of what happened down to the turn numbers 1 and 2. Tell you what, that 84 car David Leakey took a pretty nasty shot up into the outside wall as a result of that. Let's ride on board with David Leakey. Little bump, and then saw the back end lift up there. That is a really nasty impact that could do a lot of hidden damage on that machine.
Yeah, I think I even saw his steering wheel a little bit more to the right than he had it before the impact. So probably a little bit of steering damage getting pinched that hard into the wall. I think another person too that I saw took some damage on that was Dees, and he's now back in 18th after that incident.
We'll restart this race with 70 laps on the docket. 25 down. It's been a good start to the race so far. Lots of clean green flag action, but it only took 1 yellow before it became a caution fest at Daytona. We are hoping it'll be different this afternoon. All 20 cars still on the racetrack. Right now, Taylor Butcher-Benjamin and Dalton Kilrow scrambling to catch whatever they can get at the back end of the field, but I doubt they're going to be able to get there in time. Brian Dees will be able to catch the tail end of time. We'll take a bit of a wider angle. We'll see if we can catch Kilrow and Benjamin making their way around turn 4. The pace car, meanwhile, is off. A lot of cars coming down the pit road. There are the back two. They are just going to be able to catch up to the tail end of the pacing line as they go green. And they might be able to cling on to the tail end of the draft before they get up to speed. Green flag is back in the air.
Those guys must have went for the optional damage repair instead of the fast repair there, so that's probably what kept them so far behind. But hopefully they get the chance to catch up, because if they did, which it does look like they ended up making it to the tail end of the field. So good call by their engineers to just go for the optional and save the fast repair for another day.
Single file pretty much the whole way through this field. A few cars double file to the back, but for the top grouping, we're line astern. Chris Berg right behind Michael Thorpe Jr. Zachary Wareham sits in that third position just a little ways behind as well. Steve Ulrich leads that crusade up top, but Connor Gibson not about to be outdone. He's making that move to third.
Great job by Zachary Wareham to take advantage of that last caution flag, up 17 positions now, and sitting pretty in fourth. I think that's a great spot to be in, considering where he was just prior to that caution. But Connor Gibson on the outside line here, looking to take that position away from Michael Thorpe Jr. He's going to need some help from behind if he plans on finishing that. As it looks like Zathmary comes into the pits a little early.
Paul Satmary down to the pit road early on, and that is a drive-through penalty, passing before the start-finish line for the number 24. That is unfortunate news for him. 3 wide, meanwhile, for the lead. Once this settles down, we'll show you what happened to Satmary and why he is now going to be down a lap for sure as it comes down pit road.
3 wide through turns 3 and 4 for that third spot on the podium. And we'll have to see how this pays off for these guys getting a little bit more aggressive now to try and get themselves positioned to finish well at the end of the race. Aaron Smith looking like he is also getting ready to join in on this pack. Hilbrand's up quite a bit from where he was just before the caution. And Dustin Ping looking to recover from his 4th place finish as well last week at Martinsville. So a lot of guys right now hungry to be at the front of the pack.
Double file for now. Let's take a look back on what happened here with Paul Satmary. He's that number 24 car on the outside line. Field's going now. Looks at the outside. And sure enough, he was in a line that had to remain single file. He passed 1. He passed 2 cars on the outside. Now, on a normal double file restart, that's fair game. But when you're being told you have to start at the tail end for pitting when you're 1 to green after the pits are closed, that is a huge no-no. And that is going to send the German all the way to the back.
Well, I'm curious too. I mean, sometimes you can forget at Talladega the start-finish line is actually past the tri-oval and not in the middle of it. So maybe he was sitting there thinking that he had passed the start-finish line and was getting ready to make those passes, but wasn't, or totally forgot that the start-finish line is actually past the tri-oval.
Well, surely not. I would hope not, at least. That's a pretty integral thing to forget about what track you're racing at, is where the finish line is.
Yeah, but I think when you're out there racing, I think there could be times where you're just not thinking about that. You're just like, oh, you're so focused on the cars in front of you, you can tend to forget that the little things like that. But that would be a pretty crazy story if that was what happened with him there. I think he just got a better jump than he anticipated and wasn't going to give up, slow up the car at all. So he ended up paying the price for that. That'll definitely have him lead this pack and eventually bring him a lap down as the field begins to track him down.
Connor Gibson took the lead for a moment, but then got abandoned by the outside line. Tony Hilbrand's in that Mopar machine running around the top. Steve Ulrich just a little ways behind, and Taylor Butcher-Benjamin caught up in that first caution of the afternoon, sitting in the wings as well. Connor Gibson making a second attempt to go for the lead and hoping this time the outside lane is going to work for them a little bit more. I think his problem is he's pushing up when there's too much of a gap. I mean, the back line is using him to get a huge draft, and they're not going to want to slow up for him. I would not be surprised if we saw something similar going on here on the front straightaway, and this time they will check up a little bit, help push Gibson towards the front.
Yeah, I think Gibson's having trouble figuring out where he wants to be. I've seen him a few times now dip between the top line and the bottom line almost a little too often. And when you do that, it really messes up your draft pack line. So I think if he just stays committed out here, rain or shine, then he'll eventually find his way to the front of the field, as it looks like Hilbrand was not content with Connor Gibson being in front of him. So he's going to jump to the outside and try and take that position away from Connor Gibson.
Hilbrand does not want to work with Connor Gibson, it seems, right now, as he looks to drive back around, and Connor Gibson again going to fade to the inside before he loses too much ground. And a little ways up the road, there is Paul Satmary running by his lonesome. He needs a caution quick, or he is going to guaranteed be going a lap down.
Yeah, he really does need a caution to fall in his favor. The only thing that he can do at this point is to try and use the cars that are already out there to try and give himself some more momentum, and hopefully by the end of this really long line of single file cars, he'll have enough speed to get himself back into position where he can fall in line and then just wait for the lucky dog later on. It looks like Aaron Smith jumps to the outside now. It looks like he wants to take the lead away from Michael Thorpe Jr.
Not going to get there, though. Nobody went up to help him. He'll drop back. So Thorpe and Hilbrands remain the two that lead the way, as we are now a third of the way through racing action here on this Monday afternoon. And still with all 20 cars in the running, and all 20, about to be 19 though, still on the lead lap of this race. It's good to see, right, that when you get so many cars that are out here, all of them are able to be just as competitive as one another. It does make for a thrilling show.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another thrilling part of the show is going to be Hilbrands and Thorpe. Those are the two guys I would say that are the more aggressive of the pack, of the drivers that I've seen in the High Tide Racing League. So we'll probably see these guys get nice and close to each other, let each other know that they're there, as it looks like Aaron Smith has got enough momentum going down the backstretch that he is now sitting nice and pretty out there on that third line.
He's able to make a big drive on the straights, but his problem is when you're on your own at the corners, there's nothing you can do when you're on the outside by yourself. Scott Shire did go up and thought about helping him out, but I think opted against it. One driver that started to make some moves, though, we saw him towards the back to get early on. Michael Ashmore started the drive up towards the head of this field, so we could be seeing Ashmore here put into the fight to these drivers pretty soon here.
Yeah, we know Ashmore is more than capable of winning at these super speedways, so he might have a strategy up his sleeve to try and get himself up into position. But right now, being that lone guy out on that outside lane is not helping him at all. We'll have to see if he dives back down here to fall back in line with the rest of the guys. Looks like he's going to this time.
And having a little bit of fun with a bit of a misspeak from Josh Baird from last week's race on that car as well. Showed up with a bit of a lighter mood this afternoon at Talladega. Hey, we like to see it. We're all for some humor here in the Green Flag TV booth, and anything to give my fellow coworkers a hard time.
Well, his name could be easily misconstrued with just a little bit of slip of the tongue. So I will gladly take that, and I love that car. It's my favorite team here tonight.
Thorpe Hilbrand still leading the way on the A2 lines. Aaron Smith once again trying to fire up a mover on the top. And again, look, he's going to get such a good drive down the middle of that backstretch here. And you can see right here, the amount of speed he carries is immense. Tony Hilbrand, though, this time goes up to cover him off. Does not want to give him the opportunity to get that run going. But Hilbrand's not going to go down with Ulrich either. He's sticking with Aaron Smith and Scott Shire up on that third lane.
I think another thing Hilbrands might be thinking too is he has respect for Aaron Smith and everything he's done so far this season. So I think he might be picking him as the better drafting partner, because look how much speed he has going down the front of the front stretch here. He is now officially in the lead.
Oh, Smith not going to remain loyal, though. Jumps to the inside, and Hilbrand's gamble not going to pay off. Shire gets through. Steve Ulrich looking to get through as well. And now Hilbrand's is on a big backslide.
Yeah, Scott Shire is one of those guys this season. I don't feel like that we've talked about his, him being on the podium a ton, but he's been so sneaky this season, finishing where he needs to finish to be second in the point standings, even though he has 0 wins. So hopefully he can get his first win tonight, and that'll really give him an opportunity to track down Benjamin Lacey for the lead in the championship. So quite a drive for Scott Shire tonight to try and put himself right towards the front as we approach the near halfway point of this race.
He is right now standing only 20 points behind. He only even has 3 top 5s on the season. His best finish, of course, he hasn't even finished on the podium all season long. The 3 top 5s he's gotten were all 4th place finishes at Richmond Auto Club and again at Pocono. His worst finish so far this season, though, is 11th. Scott Shire is showing consistency is key, only failing to finish outside of the top 10 once all season long. Compare that to Benjamin Lacey, who is, yes, he is up in the race, in the points lead right now with 2 wins to his name. However, when you look to Lacey's statistics throughout the course of the season, the few times where he hasn't finished inside of the top 10, it's been bad. 17th place at Daytona, 14th place at Phoenix, 12th place at Vegas. All of those really hamper a championship bid.
I agree. He's been involved in quite a few incidents when he hasn't been winning so far this season. So that's going to cost him, it looks like, as he is now sitting in 11th when his nearest opponent is getting ready to battle for the lead.
But also, still a long way to go. There's a lot that can happen right now, and I can almost guarantee you, Lacey is thinking long-term. He is not thinking go for the moves in this stint. He is trying to set himself up for that final stint where it is going to be push, push, push. Right now, Taylor Butcher-Benjamin leading the way up front, but you've been able to see, and something I'm a little bit nervous about, a lot of damage on that right rear. Look at that 10 car. That right rear is crumpled up right now. That is not a sight you want to see when you're trying to push somebody towards the front.
Yeah, and with a draft-happy track, any aero damage is going to be very costly, and it looks like they pushed him out to the outside line, and he's beginning to drop like a rock. He'll need to fall back into line if he wants to salvage anything left of that top 5 run that he had most of this race so far. And so it looks like Shire is now sitting pretty in 2nd place with Smith behind him, and Hilbrand's even a little further back in this line on the outside.
Box Whip Mustang starting to make a big drive towards the front of this field. Steve Ulrich still running downstairs as well. That 52 machine, he's doing a good job on keeping that car underneath him. And whoa, boy, Hilbrand's up to the outside, Smith to the outside. They both made a really aggressive move. You wonder if they're dropping back, or are they trying to make a move to the front that's a bit delayed?
I think that they were not expecting Shire to jump down there, so I think Smith was in reaction to the move that Shire made, and it popped him all the way out to that 3rd line. Hilbrand's, tending to edge on the more aggressive side so far this race. Has been trying to get that 3rd line working, hasn't been able to get it working so far tonight. But another guy alongside Shire that I want to comment on is Ulrich. with the fact that both of those guys started next to each other, and now both of them are sitting towards the front of the field.
3 wide for the lead as well. Taylor Butcher Benjamin, David Leakey, and Dustin Ping all in a line. Benjamin going to get caught in the middle. Ping leads the lap. That got really tight, though, coming down in towards turn number 3. There was almost a wreck here. Watch this as Taylor Butcher Benjamin started to come down the racetrack. We'll get a better look at this one here. This is David Leakey going for that move. Look at Benjamin trying to block him to the inside, and it almost went wrong.
Guys are getting a little edgy now. I think they're really trying to set themselves up for the last half of this race as we're approaching the halfway point. So it looks like we got some more 3 wide action going on here, and Benjamin's stuck in the middle by himself. We'll have to see if he can get a drafting partner. I think his best bet might be to have Shire there to join him in the middle of the pack, but it looks like we finally got somebody joining him in the middle.
About halfway, just over halfway through this fuel stint as well. Still a long ways to go before we see drivers coming down to pit road. We got to lap 23 out of it and anticipated 29 on the last green flag run. This time we're on to lap 17 now. 3 by 3 wide for the race lead. It is a madhouse right now on the backstretch.
Yeah, the 8 car looks like he's rocking a new paint scheme tonight, and this is kind of one of the more unusual times for him to be up towards the front. He's not usually the guy that you'll see leading the race, and he's throwing his name in the hat as one of the guys that wants to finish at the top step of the podium. We'll have to see if Kevin Foster has what it takes on that outside line. It looks like he's getting ready to dive back into that second line. That third line ended up not working out for him.
Ripping down the front straightaway, Dustin Ping and David Leakey continue to duke it out side by side for the lead of this race with almost nothing between them. You do have to wonder how long this is going to last with that 81 car, as he is really on a tear, but so is Michael Thorpe Jr. just behind. Neither driver here wanting to lift. Dustin Ping, of course, used to be a member of Blackhawk Motorsports, a teammate with Mike Massenchill. He has since left that organization, so he is, as of right now, an independent driver. So you wonder if maybe Ping is trying to see if he can put some prospects out there and show some teams, hey, I could be a driver that you can see up at the front.
Yeah, he's doing a great job if that's what his game plan is. I know that he's been up to the front most of the time this season. I think we've talked about his name at the front just about every race we've had this year. A lot of it's just been unfortunate luck towards the end that's caused him not to be exactly where he wants to be. But I think tonight can be a great night to show him to potential team prospects of, hey, I got what it takes and I'm ready to pull it out tonight.
About 2/3 of the way through this fuel stint before we will see these drivers coming down the pit road for tires and fuel. Paul Satmary, a driver that we haven't talked about too much. He went down a lap, but critically, he did not lose the draft. He remains only 1 lap down. So if a car comes down and he's not a part of it, he will easily get that lucky dog spot, which is exactly what he is hoping for. Looking for 3 wide for the lead again. Benjamin tried to go for it up the middle. You had seen Leakey throw a Hail Mary of a block, and now Leakey into the wall. And that's going to check him up into Foster. Oh, into Foster.
Leakey and Foster getting into it. Both of them into the wall, into each other, but both of them have survived. They're going to lose a lot of positions on that, but Connor Gibson's right there behind Foster, so they'll be able to recover from that, and we are able to stay green.
A very close call, though, entering turn number 1. This was a close one. Taken right on board, well, from the air. Just got tight in a turn 1, missed the mark. Foster ran to the back of him, and then when the 84 wrenched it left to get it off the wall, door the 8 of Kevin Foster as well. Benjamin Lacey and Mike Massengill both barely avoided disaster. Could have been a nasty incident. We stay green, though. There is a little bit of damage on Kevin Foster's car right now, and if I was him, I would be kind of keeping my tabs on that right front. You don't want to get that right front with any more damage than it's got. You can already see that tire poking out. That's not going to be a good sign for later.
No, that's not a good aero-dependent track like Talladega. You do not want to have any type of damage whatsoever. But as long as you can stay within the pack limits, that'll be an opportunity for you to be able to get down to pit lane when you have to take the service next. Maybe have the right front tire changer, kick that bumper out a little bit, take some of that optional, and then get yourself back out on the track slowly but surely. You'll get that little bit of damage fixed, but definitely can't take any more dings. And that's, you know, 3 wide at Talladega is semi-easy, but it can also catch a lot of these drivers out because that third line has to ride so close to the wall that it can get really easy to be sucked up in that wall.
Thorpe leading the way down to the inside line. Here comes Benjamin and Ping. Going to go 3 abreast with the lead, as well as for 4th, just behind. Outside lane, as always, with no momentum through the corners. And Thorpe hangs on to the lead. At this point, I've lost track on who's led the most amount of laps, but there's been a lot of lead changes, almost every single lap. And at the Daytona race, there were 30 lead changes throughout the course of the race. That is a staggering amount for any other racetrack.
It's been fun to watch these guys so far duke it out for the front of the field. And Thorpe right now having a pretty commanding lead over the rest of the draft packs that we have going on right now. We'll have to see if anybody, as Thorpe slides up the track, maybe to make a little bit of a blocking move to prevent that line from gaining any momentum. And it looks like he's going clear out to the third line here. That's going to cause him to drop quite a few spots.
I wonder if this is in preparation for those pit stops, right? You take a look at the strategy and the stint tracker again. We have now passed the point of when a yellow flag came out for the first stint. We're under 10 laps away. In fact, we're only about 5 laps away from green flag pit stops here, at least with that pit window opening. So a lot of these drivers, I think, are starting to make those preparations come down to pit road.
Yeah, that's a good point, that they may be doing that as well. And I think another thing is, too, when you go through these pit cycles, you kind of don't want to be that guy that's leading the pack into the pits, because then you got a lot of guys with a lot of speed coming in behind you. And so maybe Thorpe was thinking, I'll just slide back a little bit so I'm not the first guy trying to get into pit lane, and I can sit there and ride behind these guys and let them get the speeding penalties or get rear-ended to get an unsafe pit entry. So I wonder if that may be the case for Thorpe. He pretty obviously took the decision that he did not want to be in the lead anymore.
That gives the lead to Chris Berg, a driver that has made only 1 start so far this season, and it was a 5th place finish, was up 15 positions at Auto Club, trying to see if he can maybe go for a podium or even a win here this afternoon. Very much running the part-time schedule. Taylor Butcher Benjamin left by himself on the outside line. Zachary Wareham will take it to the inside and goes for the lead. Now the 81 in the mix and really started the arrow push. That's 66 to the point.
Yeah, that was a beautiful move by Zachary Wareham in order to get to the front there, but now he's decided to take off down into the apron, which I think he must not have been content with being that guy out in the front. So either he wanted to go back to fuel saving, or he's trying not to be the guy to enter in pit lane first.
Well, he may have wanted to enter pit road first. He just didn't want to be at the front of the field where you have the highest chance of being run over from the cars behind you.
Yeah, see, I think that's where it's a good strategy for those 2 guys that have dipped back now to slide back in, because being that guy in front leading the field into the pit entry is a very scary situation. So falling back a little bit will help your chances to make sure you're not that guy that gets plowed over by the guys behind you. And I think another thing maybe too is you know, fuel strategy. If we're getting this tight for our fuel windows, you don't want to be that guy out in front eating all the fuel up. You want to be lower in the pack, trying to save as much fuel as you can going on throughout the race.
A lot of drivers now running single file on the bottom, and again, all of this in preparation for pit stops. Right now, it's a game of chicken. Who's going to be the first one to blink from the leaders? It's only going to take one, and that'll bring down a huge train of drivers. Nobody wants to be the first, though, because that is the hugest risk of all, because you may very well come down to the point where nobody else comes with you, and then there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I think the only guy that really has any call in choosing when to go down is the leader. Anybody else, you're really risking, like you said, losing the entire draft pack if they all choose to stay out. I think if I were one of these drivers right now, I'd probably be sitting in the lower lane just to make sure that I had the option to go down, but I would probably be trying to stay out as long as possible to make sure I got the most fuel, especially with the tight pit window like we were just talking about. You want to get every drop of fuel out of that tank that you can. So we'll have to see if these guys have that in them to stretch it all the way to lap 95.
We are now turning lap 29 of this run. The pit window is officially open this time by. Riding on board momentarily there with Dustin Ping. Now, no matter what happens, you are guaranteed to have to. You're guaranteed to have to come down one more time. You are not stretching this out to the end of this race. So there's no point in going for the fuel strategy. The only question now is how much fuel will you have to take to get to the end of the race.
Yeah, and I think if we stay caution-free, it's been pretty clean so far this race, minus that one caution. You may not have the opportunity to double stint this, and you have to take 3 stops. So we'll have to see if anybody was able to pull that off. I know, Benjamin Lacey and Team MFRD have been 2 groups of people that come to mind that seem to find a way to stretch that fuel a little bit longer than everybody else. But once again, Connor Gibson found his way towards the front of the field. I think he's been finding his way up towards the front tonight, but back down below the apron there. I think he overshot that just a little bit, and now he has to fall back into line, but he had gotten really close to the front there just a couple laps ago.
One driver that is begging for a caution right now is Steve Ulrich. The 52 car lost touch with the leaders some time ago and is now just hoping he can hang on until the yellow flag does come out, if yellow flag comes out before going a lap down. But right now, there's not a whole lot that this 52 car can do. And again, just like we saw with Ashmore, there are the leaders just a little ways behind. He can see them in his mirror, and that's a sickening feeling knowing that there's nothing you can do but wait and hope.
Yeah, he had some right front wheel damage on his car, so he must have hit the wall at some point earlier on in this race. And when you have that damage, it's going to make you even slower without the drafts. So he really needs them to catch up. And I really think that Zathmary is looking for them to catch, or for another caution as well, because he's going to lose his lucky dog if Ulrich gets past up here.
Steve Ulrich coming down into pit road this time by because he has not been able to save a lot of fuel from the rest. So he is now guaranteed to be down 1 lap. And it might end up being 2 pretty quickly here if this pit stop goes awry for him. Nobody else coming down to pit road. We are now past the 31 lap mark. Now remember, a couple of those laps were run under caution, so anticipate them to be in basically any time now, before lap 60.
We'll have to see how much that caution was able to save them. Maybe they'll have the opportunity to make it a 2-stop race instead of a 3-stop, but they really have to clutch and coast when they have the opportunity, when they're stuck further in this pack. But that guy up front is going to be the one that dictates that, right? Like, if he's sitting there in front and everybody else is clutching and coasting, if he does that as well and nobody wants to pass him to take the lead, that could be an opportunity for all of these guys in the field to save fuel.
Steve Ulrich down 1 lap now, making his way out of pit road, and here come the leaders up on him. So he's going to go 2 down here, but the rest of the field is due for a pit stop as well. Now, if I'm Ulrich, I'm just keeping that one on the apron or letting them through. There's no point in trying to merge up and filter in with them when you're going that much slower with a big speed difference.
Yeah, we'll have to see what his plan is here. It looks like he did get up there. I think the only other mentality you would want to go with at that point is you really want to get up to speed, so that way you can catch the back end of this pack, because if you were to lose them once again, that's just a guaranteed another 3 laps down. As we got a couple of guys diving off into pit road now.
Oh, look out, Benjamin, sliding it out. Connor Gibson overshoots, he is into the grass. Smith is off and into the grass. A lot of drivers having problems trying to get down into pit road, and Aaron Smith not going to make it at all. He's going to have to go all the way around and hope that he's got enough fuel.
Oh, that's a devastating blow to Aaron Smith's night. I'm sure he was just trying to avoid the carnage going on in front of him. But that's going to be huge, especially for these other guys that are probably going to receive penalties now for unsafe pit entry. Just a devastating entry into there, and that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. You don't want to be that first guy going down in there, because you kind of have to set the pace, and it can create carnage. We got a lot of guys diving off now to head into pit road.
Oh, go Greenwell, locking it up. 4-5 wide as they make it in. Satmary didn't make it. Shire didn't make it. They'll have penalties. I think Paul Satmary going to try to go back onto the racetrack, but that's going to be an effective game over for him. Oh, now a collision in the pit road. Greenwell turning in on Lacey as they try to make their way down into their pits, and that caused them to miss it.
Greenwell overshoots his pit stop, so green flag pit stop carnage just destroying this leaderboard right now. It's going to really shake up what we've seen so far this race,
Shire
and I'm
made
excited
it. He didn't get a penalty.
Oh, Shire did not get a penalty from that?
No, I thought he would for sure. He'd have to car to pit road, but apparently not. He made it in.
He must not have had enough of his car body over in that grass in order to cause the penalty to be tripped from that. We'll have to see once again here. I know for a fact. Oh, here's the carnage from earlier, I guess. Yeah, Gibson out in the grass, Aaron Smith out in the grass. The 10 car of Benjamin got turned sideways. It looked like Ashmore may have had some issues too. And here comes the second round of pit stops.
Look at the side of that. I mean, he is fully out of pit road. You cannot tell me that was not a penalty. The 10 was given a penalty for speeding. The 31 a penalty for speeding. The 98 a penalty for speeding. There goes Leakey and Wareham out of pit road. They both made it in just fine. Taylor Butch-Bench was one of the drivers that was running up at the front for much of this race. That is unfortunate for him. And D's hard into the inside wall in pit road. Couldn't get the car turned down in time.
More pit road carnage. This has been a wild second stop for these guys tonight. Look how fast he is blazing into there and locks up the wheels, sends the car to the inside wall. Definite damage, possible steering damage, but definite body damage from that. That's going to be a very costly mistake for him. We'll see if he takes the fast repair here.
There's another look at how fast he. I mean, there was no way he was ever going to make that work. Brian Dees, unfortunately, with a reputation for pit road struggles, and well, add another one to the list. Benjamin Lacey now the new race leader, as the rest of the pack single file out of pit road.
Wow, what an amazing time for Benjamin Lacey. Kind of riding mid-pack most of this race, has been pretty quiet for the most part, but did what he needed to do from a green flag stop.
Word. All 3 Team MFRD cars got hit for speeding. The entire team. None of them made it. So that means they're all going to come out line astern. I've never seen that happen before.
But I think that's what you get when you all go down together and you kind of play a little follow the leader. If that leader's speeding and can't get it slowed up enough, then you're just going to follow him right into that. So I think that was the costly mistake of having that team all join at the same time that caused that penalty. But it's unfortunate. But they really need to stick it out line astern throughout the rest of this race if they want any chance to salvage what's left.
So with all of that said and done, we've got cars now looking to go 3 wide for the race lead around the outside. Take a look at the drive there from David Leakey trying to gun it around the top shelf. He is not going to get there, though. Justin Pink going to hang on down low, while Chris Berg runs in just a little ways behind. Still with a good little bit to go in this race. When we return, it is the remainder of the Mission 22-250 on Green Flag TV.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Green Flag TV and to Talladega Superspeedway. We are currently still under green flag conditions with 29 laps to go. 15 cars remain on the lead lap, all 20 still running on the racetrack. Only one caution so far this afternoon, and it came from really early on. Only 23 laps in. We have been green ever since. Dustin Ping is your leader.
We'll have to see if Dustin Ping can finally reach that top step of the podium, but the problem is at this point in the race, you don't want to be that guy in front because that paints a ginormous target for you at the end of the race. So we'll have to see if Dustin Ping tries to maintain his position out here in the lead. And I think the other thing that we need to talk about too is being the leaders. You're going to be consuming the most fuel. So I think it might be another problem for him later on the race if he might have to make that extra stop if he's sitting out there catching all that air.
You have to also consider as well, there is still a splash and go pit stop that is necessary before the end of this race as well. How is that going to factor now into racing action here this afternoon? The fact that you're not going to have to come down for a full pit stop run, it is only going to be about 4 seconds worth of fuel, and then you're good to go to the end.
Yeah, two things I want to think of immediately when you talk about that is the carnage that came from this last cycle here. Are we going to see more of that carnage? And then the second thing is too, is at this point, you really don't have, you can kind of choose. The pit window is very large for a splash and go stop. So when are these people going to choose, and who are they going to choose with, and who's going to be left hung out to dry? This may really shake up the leaderboard with this splash and go stop.
Coming up on Green Flag TV, we'll be having, of course, the Beer League running on out to Belgium at the Circuit des Francorchamps. That'll be on Wednesday night at 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time. On June 6th, the Speed Tires Plus Cup Series will swing out to the Nashville Superspeedway for their second to last race of the season. They're going to be looking to duke it out at 9:15 p.m. on Thursday night. And then on Saturday, the TNGG IL Truck Series makes its return as always. They're going to be down at the Texas Motor Speedway. The last race there was an absolute barn burner. Had a bump and run in the final corner for the race win on a green-white checker finish. It was absolute insanity. Could not recommend a better venue to come on out and watch some truck racing on a Saturday night. But for now, still 26 to go in our High Tide Race League race at Talladega. And the 3 tracks that are remaining in the season here before we really start to go down and reset everything for the playoffs: Chicagoland, Kansas, Charlotte, the legacy Charlotte. So 3 1.5 miles back to back to back, but they couldn't be more different from one another.
Yeah, you got Chicagoland that's got that slight arch on the backstretch. You got Charlotte that's such an iconic track for the NASCAR Cup Series, and the older version's got a few more bumps in it than the new one. So these guys are going to have to struggle with that once again. And so I think we got some really good races coming up for these guys, and we're really going to start to see that championship take shape with a triple header of 1.5 mile ovals.
Of course, Kansas, very unique in of its own right. It has been given a reputation as one of the most dangerous 1.5 miles because of how many hard wrecks have been at that racetrack. I'm very curious to see how these Gen 4 cars are going to navigate such an iconic circuit. Kind of taking a look back throughout this field, you've got Jason Greenwell right now, who is technically running by himself. However, he's got Steve Ulrich, a lap car, right behind him. Aaron Smith is a similar way. He's tagging onto the back of Michael Ashmore, which is why he has not been losing anything despite being all by himself on the lead lap. Ty Marasco currently leads up the first real pack that is actually a pack. They, of course, were given a speeding penalty on pit road because of their unique entry lines. All 3 of them caught on the same pit entry run. Now, here's the critical thing. Because they came out all together, they managed to keep themselves on the lead lap where they remained with Paul Satmar and Connor Gibson just behind them. Both of those 2 drivers are laps down. That is really saved right now, but because they're on a smaller group than the leaders, they're not able to make up any kind of ground. They are still hoping for a yellow, but at least they don't have to worry about going a lap down.
Yeah, I was going to say their outcome couldn't have been any more lucky to have 2 guys also tagged on behind them as well, so they can keep that momentum going. But like you said, they're actually still losing time, but you're talking hundredths of a second over a lap. So we'll have to watch this replay here to watch all 3 of these guys fly into the pit road.
They really were going the exact same speed, and one of them even went into the pit wall. I mean, that is incredible.
Well, considering Brian Dees' luck with entering pit lane, he probably should not have been the leader entering into the pit lane for the team.
Okay, to be fair, he wasn't the leader. He went in too hot and overtook Ty Marasco, who was the leader, and then he went into the wall. So he didn't start there, but that's where he ended up.
Oh, poor guys. I could see myself totally speeding if I'm following behind some guys thinking that they're going to get down to speed in short enough fashion. But I think another thing that we haven't talked about a ton this season is how bad the brakes are in these cars.
You're right, we haven't really talked about it all that much. I think the last time we really went in depth about it was at Daytona. It's the only track that is anything remotely similar to what we're running today at Talladega. And it's the only other track where it's such a hard braking zone. And at Daytona, it was at the point where the second you come off the bank, you immediately had to jam the brakes about as hard as you possibly could. And even then, you barely slowed it down enough to make pit road speed. It's a very similar story this afternoon.
Yeah, I think so, and I think we've obviously seen in that second pit stop cycle on just what can happen if you are not prepared to slow down. I mean, we've seen so many cars drive off into the grass from that second stop, and you know, obviously many guys also taking speeding penalties, enough to where we've broken up this pack into quite a few chunks at this point. So just unfortunate event for those guys, and I think it's going to end up costing them the race. Unless this splash and go creates some more carnage, I think that their day is pretty well done.
So the main pack holds first on back to 10th, and I believe there may be a lap car or 2 in the mix here as well, but I cannot be 100% positive with that one. Taylor Butcher Benjamin is the car that is a lap down that is in this group. Everyone else is on the lead lap and very much fighting for position. We've got 20 laps to go this time by. Last fuel stint went about 35 laps, but that is, of course, factoring in some pit road laps as well. But we are going to be seeing these guys coming back down to pit road with under 10 laps to go.
I think we're setting ourselves up for a wild finish. I'm really excited to see this last round of pit stops. I hope it is a green flag pit stop because I think that'll make some crazy crazy finishes for us. But I think if I were these guys, I'd actually run as long as possible because it seems like with all this stuff that's been going on in these pit cycles, you kind of want to pit under caution. So if you can try and stick it out as long as possible, getting closer to the end, you may have a better opportunity to catch that caution and be able to pit under a caution flag instead of under a green flag.
Kevin Foster leaning on the door of Chris Berg and nearly taking him out. Dustin Ping immediately goes up to block big time. Foster not giving an in whatsoever, but he sure tried. And that car, I thought for sure was about to turn first, second, and then the leader, and all of a sudden we're double file again.
Yeah, we're talking now at any point that the caution comes out, this whole splash and go discussion may turn into not one because everybody will be able to pit for their final fuel stop. So these guys need to keep it green in order to have these green flag stops. I don't want to see any of these guys get wrecked out so late in the race. They've been doing such a good job at keeping it clean so far.
We haven't had the big one, though. And you know what they say about Talladega. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And it's probably going to happen on the last lap of this race. I mean, remember what happened at Daytona to get Ashmore, his one and only win so far this season? I would not put it past these guys to do a repeat of that.
Yeah, I can see that happening. That's where I would be super concerned to be in Dustin Ping's position right now. You're just such a big target towards the end of that race that it almost inevitably fails that somebody tries to cut you off to get that last, or to get that first step of the podium. It's dog eat dog on that last lap here at Talladega. So we'll have to see what these guys have in store, but so far they're keeping it clean.
Doing a brilliant job on keeping it clean indeed, as we can see Ping, Foster, and Moore all tucked up line astern. No one is being too impatient. The race was quite intense when we saw this whole field packed up. They've really calmed it down. Now, this is not what we saw at Daytona. It started off very much like Daytona did, a long, about 20-lap green flag run. At Daytona, though, after that first yellow flag, we didn't make it more than 10 for the rest of the race. Do you think these guys learned a little bit from that race? Because it's been far tamer at arguably an even more intense racetrack.
Yeah, no, I think a couple of key things. One is they're learning each other. I mean, first race of the season, you don't know who you're really racing next to unless you're a veteran of the series racing other veterans. The other thing is Daytona was super bumpy. This track is really nice and smooth, and I think the third factor that's really allowed us to be green this whole time is they've had a lot of tough tracks so far on this schedule. You know, so I think of some of those harder tracks that they've had, they're probably coming to this one thinking it's a breeze. But when you have this pack racing, though, it does take a lot of mental and physical energy to be able to hold your cars so tight without creating an accident. So great job by these guys to have that endurance, to be in the discipline, to be able to keep it tight without wrecking each other.
I wonder if Martinsville helped actually kind of help prepare them for these races, because while Martinsville and Talladega are almost about as far separate as you could possibly get, as oh boy, that is Tony Hilbrandt's coming to pit road. Same with Lacey, same with Shire. I don't think Lacey made it. We'll see if the others did, but there's our first run of fuel-only pit stops here to the end. They're pitting awful early here, but again, this is just in case something goes awry. Then they'll have the chance to try to run that gap down later on instead of only having a handful of laps to do it.
I tell you what,
overshoots.
No. Hilbrandt's overshoots his stall. I'll tell you what, though, if I had to pick a team of draft partners, I would be picking Lacey, Hilbrandt's, and Shire to be my draft partners. So a good call by those guys to dip down at the same time. I'm glad to see that none of them received a speeding penalty so far.
But they are very disconjointed. It's going to take them a little bit to get tucked up again before they're able to really make a run for it. Here comes a good chunk of others. Dustin Ping is in. David Leakey is in. Chris Berg, Thorpe, Massengill, all in the pit road, and someone overshoots. That's Leakey going all the way around, and he is going to be down and out of contention for a win.
Yeah, Leakey made the mistake of coming back into pit lane. He probably should have just stayed in the grass and came around for another lap, but now he's going to have to serve that penalty. So an unfortunate ending for Leakey. He's had a great race so far, towards the front for most of the race, but now he's going to be sitting pretty far back for the rest of this race.
Nowhere close. He wasn't even going to make the commitment line, let alone pit road. I mean, look at how late, and we're going to watch, when you look at how late, see how early everybody else was braking, and right about there, he was already hard on the brakes. I mean, that is so far too late. I mean, it would have been worth more to just go around the track again, because that costed him big time.
Yeah, the brakes virtually don't work on this track for these cars, so he found out the hard way exactly what we were just talking about earlier, about how hard it is to actually get down to speed coming into the pit lane. And like I said, I think earlier on in this race with those guys just opting to go around when they missed that commitment line and know they're not going to make it on speed is probably the better option than taking the penalty. I just think that Leakey, you know, just being not as seasoned in this season so far, just didn't think about that as he came in. So he will be serving that penalty and now have to go laps down.
Kevin Foster came down all by himself. I question the wisdom of that call. He runs third, but it's not going to stay that way. He's got no one to help him out. And oh no, caution is out. We got Massengill up into the wall. And not sure what else. We got Thorpe down on the apron. So something going to Ryan, and it happens, it looks like, with the 34 and the 3. And that puts us under the second yellow flag with only a handful of laps to go. That is a caution. That is a lifesaver for a few. Steve Hallworth will get the lucky dog.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, I think quite a few people have been praying for the fact that they needed a caution to come out, because now they'll get the wave around. And this is really going to throw a lot more hats in the ring for the, you know, the top 3 steps of the podium tonight. So we'll have to see what these guys have in store to be able to try and recover from what seemed to be a dooms-filled night. It looks like Massengill just got up into Thorpe. Thorpe had nowhere to go. Got caught up, and then Zathmary once again had nowhere to go as well and got sucked up into that incident.
Looked a little bit like Thorpe was trying to pinch him down to side draft, and Massengill missed the mark and started to drift up the racetrack as well. Yeah, it's a hard lick into the outside wall too. The 34 got kicked up and into the air, and it's just unfortunate. So a hard crash puts us under yellow flag number 2 tonight. Here comes Aaron Smith making his way down to into the pits.
We'll have to see how this all shakes out here with these guys diving back into the pits, and it looks like
pretty much everyone.
Yeah, which is interesting, especially some of the guys that have already pit so far. Maybe they needed that extra splash because they didn't quite give themselves enough to get to the end. But I would be curious why they all decided to dive in if they've already gotten their splash and go.
Setting themselves up for a green-white checkered. They only took enough just to get to the checkered flag. This way they can have enough if it goes to overtime.
Yeah, I like that call. That's actually a smart call. So good job by those guys to decide to come down and get some more fuel.
And Kilroe, quite slow, making his way down. Looking like he had to wait for Paul Satmary before he was allowed to get out of pit road. Kevin Foster, the lone driver on the lead lap to stay out. Dustin Ping wins the race off of pit road. So with all that said and done, we're going to get ourselves with another little break here. When we return, it'll be under 10 laps to go on Green Flag TV. About to go back to green flag racing with only 9 laps left to go. The pace car pulling down into pit road. Josh, any favorites before we take that green flag once again?
Ooh, that's a tough call for me. I think Dustin Ping is one that I'm hoping will be able to take the checkered flag tonight, just because a lot of the times I've seen him so far this season, he's been towards the front, and unfortunate end to his races have led to him not ending up finishing on the podium. So I'm hoping that tonight will finally be the night he'll finally get that clean race, and we'll get the first opportunity to see another opportunity to see another first-time winner here in the high tide racing this season.
9 laps to go. Foster and Greenwell on a huge jump away. Greenwell, of course, one of the other drivers that's already got 1 notch on the win column so far this season. There's a good many of that can boast to say the same. 8 total different winners in the first 11 races of the season. Also looking to see if he can make it. 9, oh, big crash, turn 3. Oh my goodness, Scott Shire up and over. Hard crash into the catch fence, and the Ford goes skyward.
Big miss. We won't probably call that one the big one just based on how we've seen many of these in the past, but it looks like Marasco's lost his hood, or his front bumper anyway. It looks like I see Aaron Smith has some damage a little further back. So devastating loss for these guys that were doing pretty good so far this race. Are now gonna have to go get some repairs.
That was a massive ride for Scott Shire. Went up and into the catch fencing in turn number 3. Take a look back at this one. This is already working down the back straightaway. So we'll jump forward a little bit further with this one here. Entering turn 3. Being pushed by the 66 of Chris Berg, and this looks like a bump gone wrong. Yeah, just tags with the right rear, lifted that back up, sent him around, and then watch this here. Marasco sends that car airborne, nearly clearing the ballpark, and that is what ripped the front of that one car to shreds.
Yeah, these cars are shaped like a wedge, and so when they get a car underneath them like that, it just sends them into the air like a wing. So Shire getting that clear up into the fence, almost got sent to the moon on that one, and then 70 car gets nailed to the inside there. I just saw like 5 or 6 different cars going through that carnage. So a lot of guys affected by the devastation caused by that wreck.
Taking a look from the air, Brian Dees was one of the other ones that just barely avoided disaster, and holy cow, Mike Massagill took a hard hit. David Leakey with a hard hit. I think that is, I'm pretty secure in calling that the big one. There's about 5-6 cars at least that got tangled up in that mess, and that is a humongous moment for the 4.
Yeah, I guess you could say that was about a third of the field that got involved with that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Chris Berg was the guy that tried bump drafting in the corner of the last incident we had.
I think you're right. When it was Dustin Ping, I think that it got turned around, and golly, the height that car got is unreal. Oh, there goes the car trying to take out the Gopher camera down to the inside. Take a ride on board with Marasco. That is a view.
My goodness, nowhere for Marasco to go, and unfortunately for him, that's a lot of damage when a car comes under you or over you like that, and then back right down onto your motor. So we'll have to see if he has any fast repairs that will get him back out on the track. But unfortunate, wrong place, wrong time for Marasco, and he took besides Shire, he took a brunt of that conflict right there.
Golly, that is one of the wildest rides I think I've ever seen that has not seen a car go fully up and over. And that's an important distinction, right? That car never went fully over. It pirouetted around in the air, but it never went onto its roof. Holy cow. time from the air. Kind of getting a really good look on if anybody behind managed to get around this. Not a lot, you know. Smith just got clocked down on the inside. So a very wild ride for caution number 3. And we'll be going with 5 laps to go. Kevin Foster still your leader. Jason Greenwell second. Benjamin Lacey third. Tony Hilbrand's fourth. Kilroe and Ping bring out the top 3. And so it begins, Josh.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking through the leaderboard right now. It looks like Ashmore may be back on the lead lap. So once again, the guy could come out with a win here to put himself back in the podium once again on a super speedway track. Long shot from 16th position, but with how wild the racing's been so far, I wouldn't put it past him. So far, Dustin Ping, my guy, my pick to win for tonight, is sitting in 5th, so we'll have to see how he does. But you have MFRD, besides Ty, who obviously just got involved in the accident. They're back in 6th and 5th position. No, I'm sorry, 6th and 8th position at this point. So those guys were able to recover from the incident that they had in their strange pit stop.
Bound to be an extremely wild drive for this field. This is, I think, gearing up to be one of the most thrilling finishes that we've seen in HTRL history.
I agree with that. I think you got a hungry Hilbrand sitting right there in second or in third position. You got Lacey on the outside, never count him out. So they're going to have a really tight, we might see a lot of 3 wide racing going towards the end of this.
Green flag is in the air. Kevin Foster leading the way. And we'll see if we can get a lap in this time around. Last time he didn't make it out of turn 4. Already Greenwell tucking in line. Not looking to give Hilbrand an in.
Here we go, Benjamin Lacey to the outside, going down the backstretch. He's got a nice little push from the guy behind him, Dalton Kilroe. So Dalton Kilroe sitting in 2nd/3rd position right now on the outside line. If those guys can get nice and tight, they can get a good run there, because that lower line seems to be breaking up quite a bit as people try and push up to get those last positions, as we got 3 wide going a little further back in the track.
4 to go this time by. Benjamin Lacey leads this next lap of the line. He is trying to go for his 3rd win of the season. Kilroe still trying to see if he can lock away his first.
It's getting a little more dicey as these guys come out of turn number 2. Still 2 wide up front, but 3 wide a little further back. And it looks like we got Aaron Smith coming up on that 3rd line with Ty Marasco following right behind him. They're getting a little bit of a momentum boost going in that 3rd line. We'll have to see if they can use that momentum to get themselves towards the front of the pack, or if anybody from that 2nd line decides that they're going to jump up there along with them. It looks like so far everybody's kind of settled in their groove, and Benjamin Lacey and Dalton Kilroe seem to get a good push going down that front stretch.
Lacey, no, it was Foster to lead the lap that last time by at the line. So this pack tucked up 3 by 3 by 3 wide all the way through this racetrack. That is of no surprise. You can handle it. Why not go for it when you got 3 laps to go? It is an absolute madhouse at the biggest, baddest track on the circuit. Coming to 2 to go this time by.
Dustin Ping taking the lead on that outside line, but we'll see this shift back to that lower line going through turns 3 and 4 as Foster jumps back to the lead. Lacey in 2nd. We'll have to see if these guys can pull off as they go down the front stretch here. You're going to start to see them form out, figure out exactly where they need to be in the lead when they cross the start-finish line. And it looks like that lower line seems to be that faster line crossing the start-finish line. So right now, Foster's got the fast line, and we may see him be another repeat winner tonight.
Just a lap and a half to go. Kevin Foster still pulling clear, but the last place you want to be at a super speedway is when you're leading the race is on that final lap. So this is going to be an extremely intense. Benjamin Lacey still running on that second group. Dalton Kilroy taking it 3 for 3 up on the top shelf, driving it in deep into turn numbers 3 and 4. 1 lap to go at the line, and right now it is all eyes on the 8.
Yeah, Kevin Foster doing a great job leading that lower line there. He's doing what he needs to do to be there at the end. But I believe those guys that are behind him are going to try and find a way to sneak out too, because they're not going to be content with sitting right there second or third in that line. They're going to want to be up front too. So we might see some jumbling as we go around turns 1 and 2 here. So far, nobody deciding to switch lines. We're still right next to each other. No big one yet as we go down the backstretch.
Half a lap to go. Dalton Kilroy driving around the top. Benjamin Lacey down in second. Kevin Foster, see if he can hang on down low. Side by side still, 3 abreast as we thunder out of the final corner. Kevin Foster clips the apron. He's going to just keep it up in there. Kilroy to the outside wall. They're 4 wide on the front straightaway. An all-out drag race. Here comes Lacey trying to make a run. Greenwell's turn. Foster's turn. Lacey shoots for it up the middle, and Benjamin Lacey goes 3 for 3. He's going to take his third win of the 2024 campaign.
Still trying to figure out what happened there. Benjamin Lacey was able to pull off the win, but it seemed like a couple of guys got jumbled up as they started smacking doors, trying to find those last few spots on the podium. Created absolute carnage, as it looks like Foster got up a little bit higher, which gave Hilbrands that opportunity to take that bottom line away. And Greenwell was not expecting him to be down there, so it got him pinched up, got Hilbrands turned. Looks like Aaron Smith got turned as well, with a few other guys alongside him. Just absolute chaos toward the back of that race as Aaron Smith crosses the line backwards. Ashmore crosses the line backwards. Greenwell, Thorpe crossed the line backwards. Absolute chaos.
Thorpe got kicked up on his side, nearly went over. But Benjamin Lacey is going to be able to come on home, and he is going to take up a race win, and he is going to proudly burn it down on the front straightaway. Able to walk out of here by taking his 3rd race win of the season, the first driver for a three-peat. This is a big drive for him. He is going to extend his points lead as the playoffs draw ever nearer.
Benjamin Lacey proving why he's earned his spot at the top of the championship standings, being at the right place at the right time once again to give him another victory. I think we're really going to see more out of this guy for the rest of the season, being able to put himself in the right position to keep himself on top of the championship standings.
And as always, absolutely flawless form on those donuts. Let's take another couple looks at that final lap melee that saw a good chunk of this field being eliminated. This is going to be at speed. Watch the 34 here, back of the field, right there. Kicked up on his side, almost went roof first, directly into the fence. That could have been a monster of an incident. There you see Chris Berg, Dustin Ping, and more all getting turned around. Paul Sapmary went around at the back of the field as well. Oh, that's a hard link into the outside wall for Berg after the fact. This is, once again, tracking that 34 car, the one that had arguably the most wild ride of the bunch, and just got turned on his side on a heavy lick.
Yeah, it looked like they got almost 4 or 5 wide crossing that tri-oval there. So very desperate to try and get those final spots on the podium, led to that carnage. Yeah, I think it was maybe 5 wide there.
Almost going in right with the driver's side window, but all of that puts us once again to an absolutely phenomenal drive here this afternoon. Let's take a rundown of your official post-race results here this afternoon. after what was an extremely wild race from the Talladega Superspeedway, taking the race win at the end of the night. It'll be Benjamin Lacey by just 200ths over Brian Dees. Ty Marasio takes it home in third. Steve Ulrich was fourth. Kevin Foster fifth. Kilrose sixth. Chris Berg seventh. Dustin Lee is an eighth. Scott Shire is ninth. Tony Hilbrands rounds out the top half of the field.
Aaron Smith finished in 11th with Michael Ashmore in 12th. Michael Thorpe Jr. 13th. Mike Massengill in 14th. Jason Greenwell finishes 15th. Zachary Wareham is 16th. 17th was Paul Zatmary. 18th was Taylor Benjamin. 19th was David Leakey, and 20th was Connor Gibson.
And that brings us up here with all drivers across the line at the end of an extremely wild finish for the Talladega Superspeedway. We'll get the chance, of course, to give a chat with all of the drivers here that finished this race on the podium here at the end of the night. Let's see if we can get in touch first and foremost with the race winner, Benjamin Lacey, who is, he has disappeared down to our waiting room. Didn't have to go hunting for him this time around, but hey, Benjamin Lacey joining us out here in the broadcast booth. And Ben, third race win on the season. You're the first driver to finally take it over to 12 races deep. Walk us through those final 5 laps this afternoon.
I think my knuckles are still white. My goodness, it was 3 wide for, I don't know, how many 5 laps or so? Jeez Louise, man. What a finish, though. Keeping it clean really to that trial wall. I don't know what happened. Looked like Greenwell got turned, and then we all kind of lost our draft up at that point. So it was whoever had the most momentum, and I think if Dees had another probably 50 to 75 feet, he probably would be sitting the victor tonight. But my goodness, Dalton was pushing, and then Dees was pushing there behind me from that last lap. So props to those guys, and I appreciate the help from them.
Thinking bigger picture for the championship, you were already 20 points up entering this race. That gap obviously going to be extending out after tonight. What's going to be the game plan then with only a handful of races left before the playoffs?
I mean, just keep the momentum. That's really the game plan. The goal is to keep everything going, keep it moving forward, getting good finishes, and ride that out through the rest of the season, playoffs, and so forth. I'm going to be taking a trip to Hawaii here in a week or two, so I will be missing a race, so that'll probably close a little bit of that gap, but hopefully we've got enough to keep us there.
Chicagoland Speedway, the next one up from the Windy City. Is it going to be more of a pack race style mile-and-a-half race, or are we going to be seeing a lot of drivers spreading out throughout the field?
I'm predicting a little spreading out. Tires always seem to be kind of an issue there at Chicagoland, so and I feel like this car could be nice and wiggly and loose out there. For some reason, this is kind of what my gut's telling me with the way that track is set up. So we'll see if I'm right. I could be completely wrong, but yeah, I think Chicagoland could be a fantastic race, to be honest.
Well, sounds like a plan. We'll get set to see him. We go racing 1 week from now in Joliet, Illinois. Congratulations on taking the race win and your third of the season. We'll see you next week.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all.
Benjamin Lacey joining us up here in that Real Earth Films number 7 Dodge, taking it home with his third win on the season. That takes us down to Brian Dees, a driver that I don't think we were expected to be talking to this afternoon, after he found himself first at the pit wall, but then shockingly on the podium. He is standing by with Josh Baird.
Brian, congratulations on your second place finish. I think I want to tag on to what Nolan just said. I think your finish or the middle of the race was looking pretty bleak for you, considering you'd had sped into the pits and then hit that interior pit wall. What was your mindset when you were going through that, and how did you overcome that?
Mindset, I don't think I can say over the air broadcast, so you can use your imagination there. Before that, though, we were actually doing pretty good with our teammates in MFRD, so we think we were able to cut a pit stop out. Everybody else is going to have to make an extra one, so we were looking pretty good. And then we all did the same thing and messed up coming to pit road, so that kind of screwed the chances on that. Then luckily got the caution that we needed and was able to catch back up. And then Talladega, end of the race happened.
Yeah, definitely Talladega feature is that last lap carnage, and It seemed like you guys on MFRD really stuck together tonight. Do you think? I think you made it sound like that really helped play a factor. What was kind of the mindset going into this race? Were you planning on that from the beginning, or did it happen to just stack the odds in your favor when you guys got all stacked up together?
No, being on a team with tonight, there was 4 of us in the chat, so that always definitely helps at a restricted plate race like this. You know, when you can work together. So that was definitely our plan coming in. We wanted to stay up front. The caution and obviously the mess up on pit road kind of messed that up for us. But like I said, with coming into a restricted plate race, you always want to work with teammates or whatever friends you have, really. You want to make as many friends as possible early in the race, so when it gets to the end, you have some left.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you guys did a great job tonight in being able to execute that game plan. Looking forward to the next few tracks coming up. It's a lot of 1.5 miles. Is there anyone in particular that you're really looking forward to?
I'm not sure what tracks exactly. I know Charlotte is one of them. Charlotte's always one of my favorite tracks on the server. It doesn't matter what car it's in. I always seem to do well there, so definitely look forward to that one. Really, the kind of cookie cutters, 1.5 miles, they seem to be what I excel at. So definitely looking positive for that stretch.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think Charlotte's one of them, and then you have Chicagoland and Kansas coming up as well. But is there anybody you'd like to thank for your second place finish tonight?
Yeah, I gotta thank the team MFRD, Michael Falk, for all these paint schemes he gives us. Gotta thank you guys, Green Flag TV, up in the booth for making us look good. Thanks to all the admins who put on this league. Ben Lacey, for really putting all this together. Definitely appreciate it. I think it's a great league. It's a lot of fun. Also gotta thank Nolan. I'm not sure, but hopefully I didn't break the counter tonight. I've been trying to work on that.
It wasn't running, so you get a pass this week.
Well, see, that's why I gotta thank you. I gotta thank you for not turning that on for me again. So
Next
I
time.
appreciate it. Well, hopefully I get a few more of these interviews the rest of the season, and maybe we can put that back to the test.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we appreciate having you here, and congrats on your second place finish tonight, Brian. And up next, we have Ty Marasco, another MFRD team member, to take the final step of the podium, standing by with Nolan.
It is another driver that I don't think we were anticipated to be talking to this afternoon. Ty, very much like Brian, it was not looking like it was going to be a race to remember when pretty much the entire Team MFRD crew got caught speeding on pit road. How did you manage to turn that around and find yourself up in third place?
Yeah, well, we were going to save enough fuel. We were going to do a one-stop strategy. It was going to be tight, but I think we could have ran away with it, and we just been us 3 up front. But we all decided to act like there was no speed limit down pit road, and we were probably all about 20 mile an hour over the speed limit. And then we were just running around. We were thinking we just needed caution because, I mean, that's about the only shot we had, and we got one with about 15 to go. And then towards the end there, I got in a wreck on the high side, but guys quickly repaired the car, got it back out there, and then at the end, I mean, we're on the high side, and then I lost momentum, and then I was stuck behind the pack of 3 wide, and I don't know, that last lap I just held it to the floor and just kept driving, and I made it 4 wide in the trial and came out third in the end. Of it. I mean, we were like 14th and 3rd within the final couple hundred yards or so. So I'll take it. Again, it was I think we had the strategy to win, and it just didn't plan out. But hey, we could take home third, and I'll take that any day of the week.
A playoff bid is definitely looking like it is going to be on the cards. You were only 20 points behind Benjamin Lacey entering racing action this afternoon. And, of course, only 3 races to go before we enter the playoffs. But what's going to be the plan then for the triple header for the cookie cutters over the next month or so to prep yourself up for the playoffs?
Just run good. get points, even though it don't matter. I mean, it's still, if you're, if you run consistent, you're bound to keep running consistent. So, yeah, we've had a consistent season. We were the points leader for the first 5-6 races, and then we didn't really fall off. We were just, the other guys kind of just caught us. So, we've been consistent all year, and as long as we can keep that going, I think we can make a deep run into the playoffs. And I'm excited to get to that point, but I'm excited for the next couple of weeks as well. Possibly get some wins. It's always fun to go out and win. So we'll focus on winning more than probably points, because you probably don't need it. But if we just keep the consistency up, we won't have an issue.
Sounds like a solid plan. We'll get set to see you once again when we return to the Chicagoland Speedway. Thanks for taking the time to join us, Ty, and congratulations on third.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Michael Falk, MF Racing Designs, for this paint and scheme for this fast #1 Ford Mustang we had tonight. Almost got it with the 17. I gave him a little bump at the end. Yeah, he came up just a little bit short, but 2 MFRD guys in the top 3 is not too bad.
Tom Marasco joined us up here from third place on the podium this afternoon, and well, with all of that, that's going to do it for our podium interviews this afternoon. What a wild race it was from the Talladega Superspeedway, and of course, it is. There's a lot more to come as well, right, Josh? I mean, Chicagoland Speedway's up next, and from there, it's not going to be long before we set ourselves up for the playoff run at the end of January. This championship is nowhere near done.
No, we are far and a long way from a championship, champion being crowned. I think that these guys have done a great job throughout the season, keeping themselves in contention. And this track proves once again how tight the competition's been so far for the High Tide Racing League. And so I think I'm really excited to see these tracks coming up, to see what we have in store for us.
Well, from us here at Green Flag TV, that is about all the time that we are going to have for one afternoon. But it was a wild one from the Talladega Superspeedway, as it so often is. Be sure to check out the Beer League on Wednesday night when they go racing at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, kicking off the second half of their racing season in Belgium. And then, of course, the Speed Tires Plus Cup Series with only one race before their championship finale. That'll be at the Nashville Superspeedway this Thursday night. And TNGG returns to the Lone Star State to race at Texas on Saturday night. All of that and so much more coming up on Green Flag TV. If you want to find out more about who we are and what we can offer you, check us out today at www.greenflagtv.com. As always, a pleasure to have you all along with us, and we want to thank all of you for joining us here this absolutely beautiful Monday night for more action to the High Tide Racing League MF Racing Designs Cup Series. When Josh Barrett and I return, it'll be to the Windy City. We'll see you in Chicago.